That's my bike!
If the explanations don't make any sense, why don't they make any sense?
Just over the shoreline, and it's moving 20 to 30 miles per hour, maybe. It was in sight for 30 minutes and finally continued southward and got higher and higher and higher until I couldn't see it any longer. And
Ocean City is a strange place, and I continue to find myself in the same very strange situations here. Often enough on these streets, I've been approached by strangers, all with the similar story that they, or someone they know, have witnessed something they can't explain by any terrestrial means. These occurrences would lead me on a quest. Through intensive research via the Mutual UFO Network and National UFO Reporting Center, I have found that over the past half-century, people have seen objects, lights, patterns, anomalies in the skies above the Assawoman and Sinnapuxent Bay areas in Worcester County, Maryland. And in order to best understand all these things, I needed to find a witness to share their story, a town official, as well as a qualified expert in the field of extraterrestrial research. My witness wished to remain anonymous under the alias Michael David. He refused to commit to an on-camera interview and instead opted for a phone interview. Despite my assurance that I would lend him all credibility, he was scared his fishing buddies would ridicule him for coming forward with his story.
I glanced out towards the dunes facing east, listening to the constant crash of the waves, and that's when I noticed the object in the northeast sky right there over the shoreline.
It was a task in itself to find witnesses that would be willing to share their stories in the film, even if protected by anonymity. I contacted City Hall to request an interview with Mayor Rick Meehan. I wanted his remarks on what makes Ocean City unique, as well as his opinion on aliens. Despite having prepared more than 40 pages worth of documented UFO reports, perhaps I had a lack of credibility that ultimately, and unfortunately, led to me never hearing back about my interview request. However, I would later accidentally walk through the background of the shot as 47 ABC's Anissa Lopez interviewed him for the 49th annual White Marlin Open. This was entirely a coincidence. As for my search for a credentialed UFO researcher, I was amazed to discover that just down the street from my residence in Anne Arundel County, there was a Mysteries of Space and Sky conference, which had taken place annually for around 20 years. I found out it was organized by a Dr. S. Peter Resta, a UMBC professor with a decades-long career in UFO research. Unfortunately, beyond emails that went unanswered, I had no means of contacting Dr. Resta, aside from his event site's contact form. I was, however, fortunate to arrange an interview with local legend and one of my personal role models, Jim Mathias.
If you could restate every question in your answer, that would be super helpful. So, who are you?
Okay.
And what's your relationship with Ocean City?
All right. Well, good morning. My name is Jim Mathias. I'm proud to say I'm a junior. My relationship here, this is my 51st summer in Ocean City. I came here with my family as a business person. And right one block away, actually.
I don't know that anyone would doubt Jim Mathias' history with the town, but it was clear that he was very proud to share it.
Here we are 51 years later. Then I got involved in politics. I ran for mayor in '96. I was elected 5 times. I ran one for the House, and then I ran for the Maryland State Senate. I went down to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I've been there for 3 years. It's go up on the boardwalk. We're the beneficiary with our caramel popcorn and our French fries. And so I've been here now 51 years. I'm proud to be here, and thank you to allow me this opportunity.
Ocean City is a strange place, and I want to understand why the people here attract strangeness, including, but not limited to, extraterrestrial activities.
people would say to me, what do you do all year long there? And they had a picture back then. That's the way it really was. The town really kind of opened up Memorial Day. And I can remember the signs, actually, that said on Labor Day, last person out, turn off the lights. And the next day, my brother and I, all we did after a long, exhausting summer was sleep. And once you kind of got into the winter, although places were open, it was challenging finding a sandwich and all.
Fewer than 7,000 people live in Ocean City as full-time residents, 3 hours from any major metropolitan area northwest or south. Forests, farmlands, salt marshes for miles, and the vast expanse of the Atlantic east. Many people take this isolation for granted. I believe this isolation to be the foundation for this town's strangeness.
My first impression was that someone was flying a kite on the beach, but that all changed when I slowly started to notice that the object was moving southward against the wind now. I grabbed my field glasses and I started to examine the object the best I could. And I noticed that the object had this slack curve and it had this dark gray quality, kind of similar to a crayon. It was a best way I could describe it, a dark gray crayon with a blunt end.
I still had not heard back from Dr. Resta. I imposed a strict and unfavorable timeline in this film's production. If I didn't get a reputable source to help me corroborate these stories, I would have to postpone production or simply make a film that fell short of even my own expectations.
Hello. We can help you find another business in the area, since the number you called is not in service. I'll look for you now.
I originally had gone through the trouble of scheduling another on-camera interview with a separate witness, an older woman. She claimed she had an experience in the early 1990s, in which she witnessed a set of triangular lights dancing around in the sky for approximately 30 minutes. A story that will be corroborated by her brother, who was also on the beach that night. Admittedly, she aroused my skepticism when she then claimed that she had had psychic experiences since childhood, stating that she could communicate with deceased loved ones. Why she would bail on production, I don't know. I was beginning to feel very discouraged. As we faced more challenges in production, even my crew began to turn on me.
Kind of bullshit.
People
I was gonna think
believe
you're
it.
a bullshit artist.
You're a bullshit artist.
Man, f*** you, I don't need this.
Get out of here.
What?
A big part of me believes that we cling to otherworldly ideas as a last-ditch effort to make sense of the unfortunate and senseless things that happen in our lives. As though pain and confusion are not the natural order of the world, regardless of what our sheltered Western lives will lead us to believe. Who's to say, right? I was beginning to wonder my purpose for making this film. And in my moment of despair, we finally made contact. Hey, come here, come here. He's ready to talk. We got whisper room. Stay. Hey, Dr. Resta, let me know if you can see and hear me. Dr. Resta shared his wealth of knowledge and offered insights that I couldn't find anywhere else.
Earlier this year in May, there was the first congressional hearing on UFOs in 50 years. One of the things they tried to do was to stop the ha-ha, stop the snickering, and to treat this as a serious subject. And that's coming from the government.
In your experience, are there any correlations at all between UAP sightings and geographic locations?
I can only tell you my impression. And my impression is that these things seem to be more likely to be observed in more rural country areas as opposed to in the city.
Finally, so much of this began to make sense.
We have to realize that the vast majority of these sightings can be explained. Seeing is believing. It's like so many other things when people scoff at, people make fun of, people make jokes about, until it happens to them, until they have their own, let's say, sighting. I don't know what's going on with these abductees, but some of the cases I've investigated, I'm not saying I think they've been abducted by aliens, but I believe that some of the legitimate cases, including some that I've talked about at the conference, it's something has happened to these people, many of them. Life changer.
47 ABC's Anissa Lopez was in Ocean City covering the annual event and has the latest.
What I believe can be learned from all of this is that whether or not there is a worldly explanation to life's anomalies, the emotions surrounding them are real, and that is where we should lend our credibility.
Through the inlet, and also enjoy some games and some fun and some, there's food trucks.
I'll tell you, that's the place to be for anglers. Wow, Mayor Meehan says, well, he's happy to be.
And after 4 or 5 minutes of not identifying this anomaly, just being generally confused, I tried my best to find someone in a nearby campground just to get a second, set of eyes. And I approached this gentleman talking to his wife, and I handed him my binoculars, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, just take a gander at this thing in the sky." And after a moment, he was also astounded to witness such an unrecognizable whatever it was.
I'm not going to sit here and say we're the only planet in the universe. Now, me personally, as I kiddingly, you asked me about weird things. Maybe tonight I'll see one, but when they come, I'd like to invite them here and say, come on down and we'll take a trip around Ocean City, because I bet you one thing, they'll come back.
Survive is to leave with.
Keep watching the skies.
Awesome.
As they come back in through the inlet, and also enjoy some games and some fun and some, there's food trucks.
I'll tell you, that's the place to be for anglers.
That's my bike!